I'm Naomi Lang, sophomore at Harvard University on the lightweight crew team, and I'm from Melbourne, Australia, studying English.
John Marvin, cross-country track and field, sophomore, applied math, and I'm from the United States.
It's Kelly Cole. I've been at Harvard for this. I just finished my second year, and I'm one of the assistant coaches.
So my dad actually went to business school here, and we lived in San Francisco for 2 years when I was maybe 7 and 8, and I have these amazing memories of Chuck E. Cheese and like just Halloween and all these crazy American traditions that I was just like, I've got to go here. And I seriously account that for why I'm studying here, Chuck E. Cheese. I really like the idea of like going to Harvard and then rowing, which is what I love to do, and being able to row for Harvard and sort of have that like university spirit, because I used to love the high school spirit side of just like being on a team.
I think just kind of like academics and sort of the vibe I got when I visited the campus and the people I met.
Yeah, so I was actually really stupid about this, and I did not even think of the schoolwork. Like, it was so funny. I was just so excited to come to the US and row, and I didn't even think that Harvard University, being one of the top colleges, would entail a lot of work. So I actually found it pretty hard freshman year, just like adjusting to studying a lot. Like, during high school, I would never work past 9 p.m. And then here, all of a sudden, I was doing papers till midnight and then waking up at 6 a.m. for practice.
Well, I mean, I feel like you probably I do have to make like sacrifices between some things, like social stuff. Like if I have early morning practice, I can't be going out, or I don't know, sometimes if I've like a race coming up and I need to get a good amount of sleep the night before, I can't be like up doing homework or something like that. So yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that you're kind of equally devoted to all the facets of your life.
The difference with the international kids is, obviously finding them. Sometimes we get interest from them, and I think probably part of it is because the name of Harvard. If you go across Europe and things like that in a lot of the countries, everybody knows like Harvard, Princeton, and Yale. And if they're coming this direction, they're looking for one of those three schools. Once they get here, I think probably some of the biggest stumbling blocks obviously are communication, obviously with, Temmie and our Canadians and from Great Britain and things like that. Obviously, language isn't a barrier. But we just recently recruited a young lady from Quebec, and French speaking made it very challenging. Transcripts, everything is done. I mean, Canadian transcripts are different to begin with, but then you have to go through, we don't just call on a transcript, then we have to have somebody translate it, read it. We have to look into the school. Here, we have certain standards and things like that. I mean, they take the TOEFLs, which is a different test than the SATs. So it all kind of has to be balanced out. So it's a lot more out of our hands. We have to jump through a lot more hoops to see, are they qualified academically before we can even begin to do the process.
So my freshman year, I actually struggled a lot with homesickness. I'm pretty close with my parents, and like all the things I was just saying about how intense and hectic it is here, there were some days where I felt so lonely, and I would Skype mom and dad, and I think I have to say the weather had a lot to do with it. Like, it's just very cold here. It never really impacted my athletics. I have to say my athletics probably kept me sane, just like rowing and working out. Like, that is something I know how to do and I feel really confident in. So if anything, that was a comfort.
I think maybe some people struggle with it a little more than others. But I feel like being on a team sort of helps them because they have a built-in group of friends, and that kind of can sort of give them a starting point. I mean, I think as a team we try to like support anyone who's homesick or something. I haven't really seen too much of that since I've been here. I don't know, I feel like people have adjusted pretty well. But there are kind of groups of international kids on the team. Like there's like a couple kids from England, and for the most part, like I feel like they can turn to each other for help, I guess, if they're like feeling homesick.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, especially here at Harvard too, I think diversity is one of the things that we stand on. I don't know, I think I've had both experiences where it's a positive addition to the team, and sometimes where the difference, you know, whether it be a language barrier or things like that, becomes difficult. But again, I think it's positive just because it's, you know, this is the chance kids have to learn and see and experience different cultures and people and all those things. So, I mean, I think overall it's always it's always been a great experience for the team and that kind of thing. Yeah. Built into the philosophy of Harvard is that athletic is shaping the entire person, and they, you know, believe completely in the role of athletics in their development as people, you know, the ability to set goals, achieve goals, work with others, you know, all of those kinds of things, overcome obstacles. And so that, I think, the university believes in, and I think all of these things, by us pushing them here on the floor and then sending them back over there.
I have to say, just like the classes can be really intimidating. That just everyone here is very clever, and especially freshman year, it was just like there were some people that were, you know, people who take 6 classes and are doing 10 million things. That's another thing. Like people here, I feel like just have this urge to be so busy, like just to join 10 clubs and be like president of this and do that, and it's like very overwhelming. Like I'm from Melbourne, and we just are way laid back about that. Like it's not really. Like we don't have SATs, we don't have that whole thing where it's like, get a good resume, like get these internships. That's another thing, that whole like, do something for the summer is so strange to me. Like, I remember after freshman year, everyone was asking me from like December on, being like, so what are your summer plans? And I was like, to go home, like sleep, I don't know, hang out with friends. There's like an intense focus on the future here that sometimes I think students don't really enjoy the present.
I expected it to be pretty busy, and it has been, but I mean, I've kind of found that, like, as I've become a sophomore now, and like I kind of know my way around the school, I kind of can pick the right classes, and you know, I can work my schedule a little better, so it's not as hectic.
And my teammates have been great. Like, my rowing's just like a very intense sport, so there are definitely times where we can like get a little antsy and a little bit too much of each other. But it's been phenomenal having them, especially my first year, because it's just this like inbuilt group of friends and support network, and I wouldn't have known what I would have done without them.
I think that so much of the community here at Harvard, because of the diversity, it's something that they do and have places for on campus within their student life. That it's not, you know, they find things that they can latch onto over there that makes them feel at home, whether it's, you know, clubs or groups or other, you know, those kinds of things. So I think they each find their niche because it is such a diverse community. I mean, I think regardless of where they're from or that kind of thing, I think once we get on the floor, it's kind of like that common equalizer that says, hey, we're all here for the same reasons, whether I know what you're saying all the time, whether I don't, whether, you know, whether we're guessing about things. But I think because there's a very clear set of rules and expectations and things like that, that if everybody's doing their job here, then it doesn't, you know, have any real impact, I don't think, on what we're doing on the floor.